Hello viewers, this is Attorney Gehi, and today we are going to speak about the forthcoming H-1B visa program. Yes, of course, there are many people in this country as well as abroad waiting for the quota to be opened up, especially in April. Are you ready? Are you steady and set to go? That's what we're going to discuss today. And with me today, I have my manager, Sandeep Nair, who has a lot of questions, especially in connection with the forthcoming H-1B visa program. So thank you, Sandeep, for joining us today.
Thank you for
I'm
having
sure
me.
you might be having a lot of questions, especially from people who have this burning desire to say, I just need my H1 right now, and my company is ready, or I have an employer who's still reviewing my resume. What do you have so far for me?
What are the requirements for an H-1B visa?
All right, you're just shooting the nail on the head directly out here. All right, with no nonsense. That's you, Sandeep, direct.
Yeah.
Just a straight shot on the H-1B program. All right, he's gotten me off the mark. So at this point of time, what are the requirements for the H-1B program? The very first thing that you need to ensure the fact is that you have a bachelor's degree or an equivalent of a bachelor's from the United States in order to qualify for the program. Secondly, you need to have a sponsor who's interested in hiring you. These are the most important requirements. And thirdly, always remember that the job offer has to be bona fide, which means that you have a genuine and a bona fide job offer. These are the minimum requirements for an H-1B, which means the bare minimum. And we'll be getting into a lot of details on this. But before I get into everything else, right now I just want to inform all our candidates who are considering the H-1B program as to how they should be ready at this point of time. The very first thing is that what you need to do is to get your degrees, your diplomas, your resume, and your work experience letters in order at this particular point of time. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important for you to have a bachelor's degree from the United States or an equivalent degree from a foreign country in order to qualify for the H-1B program. Of course, there is a small exception to the rule. If you do not hold a bachelor's degree, 3 years of experience in the profession can be used towards 1 year of your bachelor's degree, which means that if you have 3 years of experience, that can be counted towards 1 year of a degree program if you don't have that. And once if you have the basic documents like your degrees, your diplomas, your resume, and your work experience letters in order, look for an employer who's interested in hiring you in the United States. And once you have an employer who's willing to provide you with a bona fide job offer, it's very important for you to call an attorney and retain the attorney so that he can start assisting you from the process onwards. So we have a lot of issues that we're going to discuss about the H-1B visa program. So the little that I must tell you at this time before I get to the complex questions from Sandeep is that H-1B requires the person to be working in a specialty occupation. What is a specialty occupation? A specialty occupation is an occupation which requires the minimum attainment of a bachelor's degree from the United States. And also, the area in which you're going to work on should be matching with the degree, which means that, for example, if you're an architect, if you have a degree in architecture, it's fine for you to work as an architect. But for example, if you have a degree in archaeology, and if you want to work as an architect, you may not qualify because the job offer does not match your degree. So these are some important considerations for people to understand when they apply for the H-1B visa program.
Now, Attorney Gehi, you talk about and you focus on a lot of degree equivalency. What is the difference between an Indian bachelor's degree and a U.S. bachelor's degree?
That's a very good question. Some of the Indian degrees are 3-year degrees, and some of them are 4-year degrees. If they are 4-year degrees, you don't have a problem generally, as I said. But if you have a 3-year degree from India, then you'll have to show that 3 years of work experience in the profession is equal to 1 year of education. For example, you went to India and you got a Bachelor's of Arts degree. After that, you went to NIIT or some very good institution like NIIT, and thereafter you got a diploma in computer science. But after that, you worked in India with some top-notch company for 6 or 7 years. Not a problem, because even if you don't have a 4-year degree, you can still qualify provided you worked in the same occupation with some other company in India, because 3 years of work experience is equal to 1 year of education. Using that formula, you can still qualify for an H-1B program in the United States.
Now, when an H-1B visa holder comes to the United States, trying to get into the United States, do they have to show non-immigrant intent?
That's a very good question, Sandeep. When an H-1B visa holder is granted a visa, the good news is that H-1B follows a dual intent doctrine, which means even if you tell the consulate that I'm going to immigrate to the United States, they cannot hold you back. The good news is that it follows the dual intent doctrine, which means you can, yes, you can have the intent to immigrate to the United States. So that is fantastic. Now, why is that fantastic? Because once if you come in over here, you can discuss with the employer whether the company can sponsor you for the green card. Now, during that period, while your green card is in progress, you can still travel outside the country. You can go outside the country and you can come back. For example, we had a client who was a physical therapist, and she was sponsored for an H-1B visa, and she wanted to actually travel outside the country. I said, that's not a problem, and we had filed for her green card. So those are common issues that happen, and that's quite fine for them to travel at this point of time. You may be an IT consultant, or you may be a programmer, or you may be an architect. That's fine. As far as you're on an H-1B, and if you, of course, receive the initial H-1B from the consulate, you have your pay stubs in order, if you have all your documents in order, then you are fine. You can travel outside.
What if, when I'm working for this company, I want to switch to another company? Can I do that on my H-1B visa?
Yes, the good news is that you can change your employers. And also, it's very important for our viewers to know that the H-1B visa is valid for a period of 3 years, and you can extend your visa for another 3 years. Also, you can have a dependents come in with you, which means that your wife and your children under the age of 21, or your spouse, which means your husband, and your children under the age of 21 can accompany you to the United States.
What happens if my employer fails to pay me or puts me on the bench, as they say?
Now, you came to the United States, and your employer has promised you a salary of $60,000, and you worked for him on a project for a period of 3 or 4 months. Now, after that, he's asking you to just sit in the corner, relax until he finds another project, and he's not paying you. Is the employer correct? The answer is no. Under the law, even if you're on bench, it's the duty of the employer to pay you. It doesn't matter whether you have a project or no. It is the duty of the employer to pay you. Otherwise, the employer is seriously violating the immigration laws of the United States. For example, recently we assisted a person to recover his monies from his employer because the employer kept him on bench for a period of 3 months, and after that he placed him on a project, and after that later on he fired him. So now, at this point of time, we had to go against the employer in order for us to recover the monies for the employee, and my client was successful in resolving this matter with the employer because it's opening up a can of worms for the employer, especially when the employer is not paying you when you are on bench. It is the duty of the employer to pay you or ask you to leave the country and give you a one-way ticket back home.
Now, what if my employer starts harassing me, threatening to put me out of status?
Firstly, you should not be taking that harassment either. If you're a victim of harassment, it's very important for you to speak to a law firm directly at that point of time, because remember, the employer cannot take an unfair advantage of you, which means he cannot ask you to work for donkey's hours, treat you in a very, very, very inappropriate manner. So those can tantamount to a discrimination and towards harassment, and the laws are very strict on that particular issue. So remember, if you're not getting paid, we've helped people to actually recover their money from their employers in that regard, but no one expects an employer to harass you on the job when you're working. For example, you should not be witnessing sexual harassment. You should not be witnessing any kind of emotional or any kind of torture during employment with the employer on an H-1B visa.
For the H-1B visa holders, should they have their own attorney when they want to pursue the green card option, or should they rely on their employer's attorney?
It's a very good question, Sandeep. I would say that it's a good idea for the employee to have their own lawyer, which means right now there are many students here in this country who want to get an H-1B. If your employer is giving you the right to choose your lawyer, always go for your own lawyer, especially because at least you'll be transparent with your lawyer. The lawyer is going to be transparent to you. He's going to tell you what's going on your case. So if you have that option, why not take it? And it's going to really help you a lot. There was another question asked by an H-1B employee who said, Mr. Gehi, I was on an H-1B visa with the company, and I worked with them for a period of 1 year. Then I switched to another company, Company B, and Company B kept me on a project for a period of 6 months, and now I want to get back to Company A. Can I do that? Firstly, I mean, it was the duty of Company A to have revoked your H-1 no sooner you went to another company. But if you come back to Company A now at this point of time, unfortunately, Company A will have to pay you all the back wages. So remember, that's a big concern at this time, and the law is not 100% clear, but this is the prevailing view, and this is my analysis of the situation. So better for the employer to revoke the old H-1 and apply for a new H-1. This is my personal request to people who are in this particular situation.
In deportation, do you have a complex immigration matter? Has your immigration case been denied? For all your complex immigration matters, including family-based immigration, employment-based immigration, deportation, citizenships, battered spouses, call Gehi and Associates at 718-263-5999 for a free initial consultation.
Over the years, we've helped many people in getting the green cards. Would you like to have your green card? Call Gehi and Associates now.
Since the H-1B program is beginning in April 2012, what do you have any advice for our viewers on what's going to happen?
At this point of time, I believe the H-1B visa program is beginning in April. What you need to do is to get your degrees, your diplomas, your resume, and your work experience letters in order. Have a clear understanding with the prospective employer, and have a meeting with them, and let them know what you expect in the entire process. Remember, an interview is a two-way process. It's not a one-way process. Don't feel shy, be bold, and just be upfront. And especially if you have those qualifications which are just magnificent, just be upfront and let them know what your expectations are. Have your own lawyer do your H-1B, and let him keep you advised, throughout the process. This will also help you to plan your green card if you intend to live in the United States, especially because what happens is that after you get your H-1B, you need constant advice in future about settling in this country or having some other plans. So it's very important for you to work with a very good lawyer, because there are lawyers who just file H-1Bs, and sometimes those H-1Bs get denied, and the employee falls into troubled waters. Try your best to go with a very seasoned lawyer. And if you have a seasoned lawyer, he'll be happy to take care of your entire process and guide you accordingly. So remember, first thing first, check your qualifications, have a meeting with the prospective employer, see that it's a bona fide job offer, and that you meet the requirements of a specialty occupation under Section 214 of the Immigration and Nationality Act. These are the basics. And remember, your spouse can join you on an H-4 visa, and your dependents under 21 can join you. And these issues are very important for you to know, especially because if you get denied under the H-1B visa program, it can be very difficult for you to actually win on appeal, because the trend generally is to follow the immigration officer's decision in these cases.
Why is the forthcoming H-1B program in April 2012 important? Why is this window important?
This window is important because you never know. The quota may get full. You never know. People said that it may not, it may. No one can predict anything. It's like a lottery. And they only have 65,000 visas. Some people may tell you, oh, don't worry about it. It's going to be open for the next 6 months. You never know how many people are waiting in line. Probably the big companies may just take a lot of those visas. So the bottom line is that start working with an attorney right now and get your paperwork in order. See that you put your papers in the first week of April at least. I mean, this is my warmest recommendation. And I would strongly encourage students and people who are considering the H-1B visa to start working now. Shouldn't be any delay if you're looking at getting sponsored under the H-1B visa program.
Thank you, Attorney Gehi. That's all the questions that we have for today.
Sandeep, before we end this program, we've also gotten a lot of questions from viewers that relate to complex issues in the H-1B visa program. So therefore, what I'm going to do now is that I'm just going to directly address those questions to our viewers. So in a sense, what I'm going to do is that since these issues are very complex, I'm going to just try to focus on our viewers and just answer those questions for them so they exactly understand what the answer to their question was. The very first question was, Attorney Gehi, I have a PhD degree from my country, and my employer is in extreme need of my services at this time. What should I do? And I do not belong to India or China, and I belong to a country wherein the EB2 visa category is current. If you're smart in this instance, your best bet would be to discuss with the employer about the possibility of filing directly for your green card, especially because EB2 is current for a lot of countries. So therefore, at this particular point of time, you should be able to talk to your employer and get your process going. Or especially in your case, since you have a PhD and you have publications, I mean, you have a lot of other windows open. Probably you may qualify under EB1 or you may qualify under EB2, depends on your exact qualifications. But to make a long story short, since you said that you're an outstanding researcher and a professor with a lot of advanced degrees, the bottom line is that consider filing for a direct green card, number one. Next question was, Mr. Gehi, I have a situation. I was on an H-1B visa, and at this point of time, my I-94 has not expired, but I am out of status because my employer laid me off. What can I do? At this point of time, you need to look for another employer because your I-94 is still valid. So therefore, when you travel outside the country, you will not be subjected to the 3-year or the 10-year bar because your I-94 document has not expired. So still, there is hope in your case. Please do not give up. Or secondly, there are other avenues for you. Get married to an American citizen or a green card holder who's been a green card holder for a long time. Especially if she becomes a citizen, you may still qualify for a green card in the United States. Third question was from a physical therapist. Mr. Gehi, I passed all my exams, and at this point of time, I have an employer who is ready to sponsor me. I've never dealt with the H-1B visa process. What should I do? Best thing for you to do, if you have the qualifications, and if you are eligible for an H-1B visa, at this point of time, consult an attorney and get the ball rolling, especially because in April, as you know, the new quota is going to begin. So it would be in your best interest to start working with an attorney at this point of time as soon as possible. The other question was from a viewer. That was a very interesting question. Mr. Gehi, I'm on an H-1B visa, and unfortunately, I've been charged with a crime. Can someone still help me? We've had many situations wherein people get into troubled waters. When, for example, if you're charged with drunk driving, it's very important for you to seek the best immigration advice on this matter, especially because if you get charged with a crime involving moral turpitude or an aggravated felony, unfortunately, you may not have hope. You may not have hope, except for if you have US children or whatnot. And especially if it's an aggravated felony, there may be literally no hope in your case. So my strongest advice to you is that speak to an attorney who can analyze your situation and who can actually work with a criminal lawyer and get you the best possible legal advice in order to resolve your H-1B visa matter. The other question was that, Mr. Gehi, I'm on an H-1B, and at this point of time, things are not working out between me and my employer. What's your best advice? My best advice, try to work out things with your employer. If not, change to another employer or change to a student visa or look for other options at this particular point of time. But please ensure that your employer pays you even when you are on bench. There's a tendency of some employers who try to be very friendly with employees and tell them, don't worry about it, I'll take care of you. No. Your salary is your salary. The employer is required to pay you by law, or if not, the employer is violating the immigration and nationality laws of the United States. Next question is very important, was from a woman who's on an H-4 visa at this point of time. And her question was, can I work in the United States? The simple answer is no. You are not allowed to work in the United States at all when you are on an H-4 visa. So the answer is straight blank, straight shooting. The answer is no. Next question was from a viewer who said, Mr. Gehi, I have this situation wherein I'm getting a job, but my employer wants to sponsor me for a part-time H-1B. Can I qualify for a part-time H-1B? Yes. There is a provision in the law wherein your employer can sponsor you for a part-time H-1B position. Recently, we had a client who wanted a part-time because the employer did not need a service for a full-time position. So even if you are working part-time, you can still qualify under the H-1B visa program. Next question was very important. Mr. Gehi, I've been on an H-1B for a period of 2 years. Now I want to start discussing the possibility of my green card. Is this the right time? I would always recommend one thing, especially when you're on an H-1B visa, start discussing with your employer, especially if you're interested in settling in the United States, regarding your green card as soon as possible. Never wait until the 5th year, because generally what happens, you wind up in troubled waters and there's a lot of rush and there's a lot of stress on the employee. So if that employer is not ready to sponsor you, your best bet is to move to another company and carry on with your life. Please do not wait until the last minute, because it can really, really, really have a disastrous impact upon you, especially if you are planning on settling in the United States. Of course, we have a lot more base to cover in connection with the H-1B visa program. But before I go, the most important question which I have for all of you is, remember, the April quota is approaching. So please contact your attorney, work with a seasoned attorney, and get your immigration as soon as possible. This is Attorney Gehi. We'll be back again.